I prepared a PowerPoint because I'm a total nerd, right? So this is me restructure the FA Cup.
Can I just think before we start on? It's like anybody who actually makes PowerPoints will appreciate this. See when you see click to add subtitle, you know that this is somebody like a first effort on PowerPoint. It's like no way it worked out.
Like what's going to be great about when folk actually watch this is there's not going to be a PowerPoint on the screen because it's going to have nice graphics. So
yeah, also point of order here. This is a Google Slides, Geoff. Get your brands right.
Yeah, it is Google Slides. It's not even PowerPoint. Sorry, I'm getting my branding. Yeah, this is just for the structure of my argument. This isn't for presentation. Okay. So so the current FA Cup system is really convoluted, and I tried to works, but effectively, there's like the preliminary rounds, and there's for like the 8th to 10th tier have to like go through like what seems to be like 5 or 6 games before they get to play any decent football. And one of my favorite things about the FA Cup is the amortize you get in the 3rd and 4th rounds proper. So I came up with a system which I think breaks it down to about the same number of games. But basically what you would do is you would take every team from the top 10 tiers of football and just at the end of the season rank them from like whoever finished first in the Premier League all the way down based on where they finished. So like Man City would finish and then whoever was second would be number 2, and you would just rank them by number right down to the bottom until you got to number 248, and then you could like I know folk are like, oh well, some folk would say, oh, you've got down below the National Premier League, you've got the Northern Premier League and the Southern Premier League, and you've got all these random you've got 4 other leagues, but you would just rotate them to develop a tier structure. But what you do is you rank them, right, and then you would cut the list up. So what's half of 248? 124, yeah.
Yeah.
It wouldn't work out like that. I had to do the maths. You had to add another 8 teams. You'd have to find another 8 teams from I would just say the winners of all the 11th tier leagues or something. So 256 teams.
Some of the League Cup champions or something like that.
Yeah. So you would have 256 teams, and then you would number them 1 to 256, and then you would split it directly in half, and then you would have so what's 256 divided by 2?
128.
20. So you would have team 1 play team 129, and you would just number it like that, and then it would just be a straight knockout tournament until you got to the top 2 teams. My reasons for doing that, one of my personal reasons for that is I love it when you watch Match of the Day on the red button and it's like random games. The one that always comes immediate to mind is when Tottenham got to play Marine, or when Marine got to play Tottenham, I suppose. And you had folks standing in their back gardens watching the game because Tottenham were playing literally in their back garden.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of conversation about how the money in football trickles down really quite shitly down from the top tiers down to the bottom. So you've got teams that are having to come up with creative ways, to run their teams down in England, lower tiers who open their car park up for car sales just to make a bit of money. And then you've got Man City who are unbelievable, they're so wealthy that they can get all these fines and just laugh them off. So I think it would just create an element where every team would technically get a glamour tie at least once a season based on where they fit.
If every team's got a glamour tie and they played the same day, so your Shrewsbury Spartans or something like that are 256 and they're playing Manchester City. What if it gets drawn and it's getting played at Shrewsbury? Liverpool are playing the next side at Anfield, so that's the game that gets on the telly.
The rule would be that in the first 4 or 5 rounds, the round will always be played at the ground of the lower ranked team.
But the lower ranked teams didn't want the home game for these things. No, they want, because the way the thing works, they get half the gate and half the TV money.
You just play at the Etihad and at Anfield then, and then just go from there.
Yeah, they want to play. Yeah,
I was thinking around. That's fair enough, but it still works. You would just change that around. You'd always.
I think the money's split. I think that's how it works.
I suppose the issue with that would be that you wouldn't have the people watching from the back garden as well. Then
no. Yeah, you wouldn't have that, but whatever works, you could ask the teams. Okay, I just that's a very selfish reason. I like it being from the back garden. I like the fact that with the ball fall, you sent me screenshots again where when the ball goes high enough and the camera follows the ball into the air. You can see the Aldi behind the stand and stuff like that.
It was like Ayr United versus Musselburgh. Up 1983, we got beat 4-1 in a final there.
Because there's I walked past it last year.
All of
and
that.
and if you stand on the road above it, you can just watch the game from like the pavement, which is amazing. But I love that sort of stuff. And like me and Tom, I've taken Tom to the Blairwood where Oakley play, and they have the same similar thing where you get kids that don't want to pay to get in will sit on the porter cabins in the industrial estate next to the football ground and watch the game from there. I think that stuff's total nonsense. Or when we were at Rosyth, when we went to watch the Rosyth game, and there was all watching it from the embankment, and we paid to get in. Just stuff like that sort of stuff that tickles me a bit. So
you can see the guy at Rosyth. You can see the guys like walking their dogs. The dogs just sitting next to them we'll just have to watch 10 minutes of the second half here. No idea what the score is or anything. They just come to sit on the embankment. Yeah.
Look at this. Well, I take my dogs for a walk when I know there's a game on. Well, they don't do it anymore, but I know when there's a game on in the Rex, I'll walk past. I'll take the dogs out for a walk and try and catch like 20 minutes of Dunfermline City football club who represent a pub playing on another pub, and it's just good banner. But yeah, I just thought so. Yeah, here's the round one ties based on my new ranking system. Man City would play Farsley Celtic, Arsenal would play Kettering Town, Man United would play Leamington, Liverpool would play AFC Telford United. There you go.
Nice.
Tottenham. So there's some really cushy draws in there. I didn't want to count you, Tom. So Leeds are getting a game against Hemel Hempstead.
Oh, good. Oh, yeah. Look at that. They've got an Apex character on the badge, Henry VIII. Amazing. Yeah, I'll be massive inside. Obviously, we'd lose. So the thing with Leeds at the moment with the FA Cup, which is we've had something like for the third round I think it's 10 or 11 away ties in a row as our third round draw. We're having a draw at Elland Road in the third round for like. We've had replays in Elland Road over the third round, but we've always had the first game away. It's something like 11 or 12 in a row.
It was a record, wasn't it? It was a record.
Yeah, it's a record. Yeah. Obviously, all the Leeds fans are screaming conspiracy, but I mean, we're not going to win the FA Cup, so if anything, it's a distraction.
I thought that was great. So yeah, Leeds would get Hemel Hempstead in the first round, and then I went the other way around. I went to see a non-league team last year, Lewis FC, who play just outside Brighton, and this is their. They would in the first round they would play Curzon Ashton, who are an NPL South team. So they're technically it's not a glamour tie, but they are getting to play a team a couple of weeks above them. If we imagine that they like worked their way through and just happened to beat and did like the giant killing, they would once they'd beat Kirsten Ashton, they would then get Scunthorpe in the second round. Then they would play somebody like Derby in the third round. So already they've got to play. And then they would get West Brom, and then just after they beat West Brom, they'd get Cardiff, then Everton, then West Ham.
Then the trophy.
And then that would be their trophy game after that. It would be like,
I suppose looking at this slide, I suppose you can see that by the sort of fifth or sixth round, you can see that's what the third round looks like. If they play like Lewis SC versus I can't see who they're playing the third round.
The third round, you're tending to get your national. That's like your. Yeah, that's your Scunthorpe's, or when you get Scunthorpe versus a Derby or something.
Yeah. So that's like a third round now, doesn't it? So I suppose it's not that different, I guess. So yeah, it's good.
I'm not going to lie. By the time I got to this point in my PowerPoint, I realised that was the case. But then when I looked at it, I was like, actually, I haven't.
There's just like one or two, like no upsets apart from that Lose FC. But you have upsets. Imagine like FA Cup semi-finals day. BBC and it's Lose FC versus Fairsley Celtic. It would just be bizarre. I look at the pros.
So it means the home team would get a good gate, like or like you guys say, if they're getting half of from like you would want them to make as much money as possible. So if they don't want the home, you would sort out the first couple of rounds so that if you got drawn against Liverpool, you would play at Anfield to get the gate. It would look great and funny. It would turn the Magic of the Cup into a bit of prestige because you'd want to do well so that you could get if you looked at the way the system worked, you start to finish kind of higher in your league because it would mean you would get a slightly better team.
Mm-hmm.
It means that like we teams, because I think the thing makes this system more different than the way it works just now. You get like Lewis FC, for example, to play the FA Cup proper, they have to do that in preliminary round where they do something like 5 games before they get to play anybody in the National League or higher. You know what I mean? So it means that we get rewarded quicker for giant killing this way, and it doesn't really affect the bigger teams as they should be winning anyway. So,
it's an interesting idea, Geoff. We could submit it to the FA. I'm not sure they're going to go for it. I'll be honest with you. It's an interesting idea. I think a couple of the teams that you mentioned who finished so low, I've seen them. I'm sure I've seen like Ebbsfleet. I'm fairly sure I've seen them on TV at some point in the last few years. You do get giant killing every year, and I think that's the romance of it is when you do get a wee side.
Yeah,
where we run to the fourth round and get a prestige tie.
I think what it was how many teams there actually are, and actually when you do the maths, like I thought only 248 teams in the top 10 tiers, and they're like actually 248 is fucking massive. Like, and then but then it's also not. So like, yeah, I found that I expect glamour ties to be like I expected the glamour ties to come quicker, but you're starting to get them in the third or fourth round. Of the new setup, whereas like in the current setup, I think if we take Lewis as the example, if Lewis wanted to play somebody in like the National Premier League or higher, so like the top 5 tiers, they would need to be like they're like their 5th game. Like they have to go through all these weird like preliminary ties and stuff. So they're like, but you could argue that like the standards higher and stuff like that as well, because it obviously is. But like by the time Liverpool enter the FA Cup proper, if Liverpool get drawn against a team that's had to work through the preliminary rounds, it's like Liverpool's first round of the FA Cup is that team's 5th or 6th.
I can see what you're saying, but to be fair, they've had to play 5 or 6 games, but then these top teams are also playing, they're playing European games, and that's going up to 8 games per season from 24, 25, isn't it? With expanding the Champions League, so
that was always you've got the international games as well, haven't you? So like if you play in like the top tiers of football, you're probably playing for your country.
You're likely to be an international as well, so you're not getting a break, and you're playing those games as well. So if you get a run in the FA Cup and a run in the League Cup, just a few years ago, 3 years ago, they got to the final of the Champions League. The final won the FA Cup, won the still playing for four tournaments and ended up playing like 15 games more than some teams in the Premier League.
Yeah.
We should do talking about the FA Cup, we should do maybe the third round draw watch along.
Yeah,
like as a podcast. We should do
if we can find one of the teams that are streaming their game, or find a stream of a random game, that would be excellent.
Yeah, cool. We should do that because I think that's in January sometime, right? So the FA Cup first rounds. In fact, is it FA Cup's coming up in the 6th of January? Is that the 3rd round?
The team's going on either the 3rd or the 4th, isn't it?
Yeah. We should organise a watch along for the draw, and then we can really comment on these things. I think I like that idea. I think it's good to get more with the romance ties, because sometimes you get draws. You're like, there's not really any. There's a League 2 team, Championship team. That's basically it. That's not really
You also got, I think, Liverpool drew Arsenal in the first round proper. And you look and you think, how come we didn't get an easy game against Ebbsfleet or something like that? Yeah. 4th round, one of the best sides in the country is going to be out. Either way it goes, one of the best sides is going to be out in the fourth round.
That's the romance of the cup.
Yeah.
The fourth round gets drawn like in the start right at the start of January. So.
Geoff, I'm flat a bit here, mate. So can we call it? Do another episode another time? The content.
Cool. I'll just edit these and I'll bring them up. I'll show them. See what you think. That's good, guys. Thanks for your time.
Yeah,
I'm happy to do this every couple of weeks or something like that. If we can do 2 half-hour episodes every fortnight or something, that would work. And then we'll have more to talk about every time, because we'll have by the next time we meet, we'll have the top team at Christmas to talk about.
We could maybe do. We could, to start us off next time, we could maybe do something like what's something funny that you thought happened in the footy over the weekend, or so to keep it kind of fresh and rolling.
You should get to a rhythm the right self. I think it starts to awesome, guys.
I didn't even manage to bring out my stats. I've got written down every side